All right. Welcome to A Therapist, Buddhist, and You. My name is Luke DuBois, and I'm here with co-host Zalmal.
Hey, what's up, guys? Here's Zal. Good to be here.
And we have a guest today by the name of Mark Sakraida. Hey, Mark.
Evening. Howdy.
So
Thank you.
We have our typical podcast platform, and today we're doing a different video recording. So we'll see how this goes, and we'll have it on our typical platforms where you can listen to us and are currently listening to us. And looks like we'll be able to get hopefully this whole thing on our new YouTube channel. And if not, we'll at least hopefully get some good clips. That's my hope. So before we get going, I often say this at the end of the podcast. Thank you guys for listening. And if you haven't yet done this and you're at least 3 episodes in, I kind of see this as a handshake agreement. So please subscribe, comment, review, follow, and like. If you think others would benefit, once again, share with others, as collectively we can find solutions to all things health and wellness. So please, it's kind of like our handshake agreement. If you like what you're getting, this is free. So any type of comment, like, share would certainly go a long way for us. Zal, I think this is also pretty cool. We talk about a collective solution to health and wellness, and we have people listening all over the world. We had people listening from Johannesburg, South Africa, Paris, France, Melbourne, Australia. I think I'm saying this right. Taipei, Taiwan, Stellenbosch, South Africa, and Alberta, Canada. And I haven't counted if we hit every state yet. But once again, I think this is just really cool that a collective solution to health and wellness. And we're worldwide, man. Pretty sweet.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you all for the support.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening. And as we get going, I do want to bring on my good friend Mark Sakraida. And our topic is on his experience and specialty, but I want to give him a good welcome in. So I wrote a little something down that he doesn't know about. So let me see if I can do him justice. I don't see. Mark Sakraida is a highly skilled and passionate adventure therapist with extensive experience in helping individuals achieve personal growth and healing through their experiences. With a deep understanding of the therapeutic benefits of adventure therapy, Mark has dedicated his career to guiding clients on transformative journeys of self-discovery. He recognized the therapeutic power of nature, adventure, and the group dynamic, so he pursued specialized training and education to become a certified adventure therapist. With decades of experience in the field, Mark has worked with diverse populations, including addictions, adolescents, adults, first responders, police officers, families, just to name a few, really facilitating experiential therapy sessions tailored to meet their individual and group needs. As an adventure therapist, Mark Sakraida continues to empower individuals to embark on transformative journeys, discover their strengths, and embrace new possibilities. His unwavering commitment to guiding clients towards improved mental well-being and personal fulfillment has made him a respected and sought-out professional in the field of adventure therapy. How's that, Mark? How does that sound?
Wow. Thank you. I'm humbled. I just look at myself as I'm just an alcoholic and an addict who's, been blessed with the opportunity to do something that I never, thought imaginable 30 some years ago when almost 31 now. Been at Pathways a little 30 and a half years.
1994?
No, I started in October of 92. Pathways opened up in November of 1992. Okay. And I was originally hired as the admissions counselor. And a year later, I was afforded the opportunity to go through the facilitator training in order to be a backup to the original adventure therapist at Pathways. And it was an awesome experience. 10 days, 8 days, 10 hours a day. And our trainer put us through all the activities, challenges, icebreakers, games, initiatives, low element initiatives, high element initiatives, so that we could learn how to facilitate. And, we thought it was great. And for those of us who went through the training, we were looking at it as, hey, we're playing games, we're having fun and getting paid to do it. And then we had a cathartic moment on one of the low element activities. And it's unfortunate that, just like in real life, that something bad has to happen before for something good to come out of it. But that cathartic moment took the 12 of us and transformed us from, individuals into a cohesive unit. And from that moment on, it was, everybody's safety, physically and emotionally. And after the training and everything, I just thought that was like the best thing since sliced bread. And then fortunately, about 9 months later, right around this time of the year, and I had just come back from vacation, and we were told that our original adventure therapist was leaving. So the hospital had to post a position, and apparently, I understand one person applied for the job and never had any ropes course experience. So I was approached, and wow, I was teetering on the edge of total burnout
because you were doing
position as the
admissions. Yeah.
Yes. And they approached me and asked me if I would be willing to, to take the job and everything. And typical alcoholic addict mentality, don't think that I can do it. So I asked them, let me have a little bit of time to think about it. But after doing one last admission and everything on a Friday, that sort of pushed me over the edge, if you know what I mean. And I came in on a Monday and I said, when do I start? And I've never looked back. I have never looked back. The doors that it has opened for me, the experiences that I've been fortunate and blessed to have enjoyed as a result of the connections I've made, and unbelievable. I never imagined in my wildest dreams I would be in places like Yosemite, Joshua Tree, New River Gorge, Red River Gorge, ice climbing up in the Adirondacks. So I have been blessed. I have been blessed innumerably. And the fortunate thing is that I can only hope and pray that what I do has an impact on the clientele that I work with.
Yeah, as you talk about, one of our huge kind of underlining measurement of what we want to get across is a collective solution to health and wellness. And you discussing of being an admissions coordinator, and here comes a Friday, here comes another one, and like, ugh. And in that group experience, you said you felt that spark, right? The experience. What was that spark that kind of like gave you that nudge to go, ooh, I don't know where this journey's taking me, but that experience led you to, like you're saying, this career and these other experiences in your profession, but as also hobbies and these, monuments nationally.
The training for, for those, other staff members, outpatient counselors, inpatient counselors, myself, it was originally just for us to be, trained to be able to facilitate the activities and challenges so that we could be a backup to the original adventure therapist, Lynn. But during the course of the training and everything, all the activities and the high element and low element challenges that, just pushed us to have to think collectively, to work with each other, to learn how to support each other, learning each other's strengths and weaknesses, and basically, not being afraid to expose ourselves. And then in the last 2 days of the training, we got up into the high element activities, the high multivine, the three line traverse, the catwalk. And for every one of those high element activities, I was always the first one to want to go and everything. And I remember that on the day that we did the power pole activity, which is a 25-foot high pole, about 9 inches in diameter. You have to climb up to the top of it, stand on top of the pole. And originally the original builders had installed a trapeze that you had to jump out to and try to catch. Excuse me. And our trainer pulled me to the side and she says, let somebody else volunteer to go first. I said, okay, I can do that. And so she looks at everybody else in the group. She says, all right, who wants to go first? And all the 11 staff members said, Mark can go first. So I was like, okay, I don't mind. And then the climbing wall was just the epitome of everything. And the challenge that it presented, facing your fears, facing your self-doubts and everything, and then being able to get up to the top. And then probably about a year or so after, I had started as the adventure therapist, I called a good friend of mine and I asked him, I says, is there something more than just this? Whoa, what a loaded question that was. So much to do out in the world out there beyond just, a rock climbing wall that I had no idea existed because I had never been exposed to it before. And I climbing out in Yosemite, climbing at the base of El Capitan, climbing Half Dome, 40 years ago, if you'd have told me would be doing something like that, I would have said, man, what are you smoking? Can I have some of that too?
So it certainly got your passion and your excitement and your juices going. In terms of, we're kind of talking about the adventures in therapy. How do you feel how clearly, it's not that you fell into this, but you got an opportunity and it was like, man, this was the fit for you. How does adventure therapy differ from, obviously you can climb a wall or go on a 25-foot pole, but how do you know and how do you feel experiential therapy? Experiential therapy and adventure therapy differs from your common sit on a couch, sit in a chair, sit in a circle of chairs in a room. How does this differ? What's the power of this type of therapy that just is completely different from other forms? Hey listeners, we've got something extraordinary to share, a chance to reshape your journey no matter where you are. You're familiar with Zalmal's insights on our podcast, but there's more. Through the Recovery Collective, he offers life, mindfulness, recovery coaching, and meditation groups guiding you toward a fulfilled and mindful existence, no matter your location. Zal's journey from a Burmese Buddhist novice to a skilled practitioner equips him with timeless wisdom and contemporary strategies. Whether you're navigating life's shifts, seeking clarity, or pursuing self-awareness, Zal's coaching serves as a compass guiding you toward success. The best part? Zal's approach centers on your growth and empowerment. He equips you with tools to tap into your inner strengths for continuous evolution no matter where you are. Ready to take that next step in your personal growth journey? Connect with Zalmal and the Recovery Collective at 240-813-8135 from anywhere in the world. Investigating in your journey reaps immeasurable rewards. Let Zalmal guide you toward resilience, clarity, and empowerment no matter where life finds you. Now, let's transition back into our conversation. Stay tuned, stay curious, and keep your journey growing.
I see in what you had sent me and everything, and I hate to skip ahead. Is that okay?
I'll bring you back if need be. You're good.
What one of the things that, I started, was given information about programs such as the Association for Experiential Education, AEE, and would go to trainings with, a good friend of mine who is undoubtedly one of the biggest influences that I had in the field. And the activities and the challenges initially pique the client's interests and whatnot. And generally, what is this? What does this activity have to do with me getting sober? As compared to, as you said, other types of therapy where, folks can sit and talk, and, all those are all beneficial in their own way. Whereas the adventure therapy program allows folks to be involved and to be engaged, to be stimulated, to be challenged. And, that, here's your objective. Here's where you're going to start. Here's where you need to get to. Here are your tools. Here's your equipment that you're going to need, and figure it out. And it's about people learning how to, and I've learned over the years that I want my patients to make mistakes. And I know that they're going to make mistakes. And it's hopefully that by making said mistakes that they don't continue to repeat said mistakes, so that they learn how to do something different. Because basically, as alcoholics and addicts, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So by being involved in hands-on activities or challenges, it allows our clientele to learn, hopefully to learn from their mistakes, to identify, here's what doesn't work. So what are we going to do different? What can we do different? What changes do we need to make in order to accomplish this task? And once the task is completed, then we sit down and we process the activity. What did you do? What worked? What didn't work? So it offers them the opportunity to be able to look at themselves. What did I do? How did I do it? And then bring it all together and be able to look at themselves in the context of, how is this like I perform out in the real world? How is this, comparable to how I act, amongst my family, my friends, and people that I know? How do I deal with challenges? How do I deal with when things don't work out for me? How do I deal with the frustration? How do I learn how to deal with so many different other personalities? How do I learn how to listen to other people's ideas rather than just thinking, I know everything that I need to do and nobody can tell me any different?
And to me, the most powerful part from me experiencing, and for those that, I don't think we've said it yet, and I've got a lot of mentorship under you. Yes, there was the post-processing, but the processing when they were experiencing it was, to me, one of the most powerful things. When, as the failure or the troubles began to happen during the activity, that's when you saw how they think, how they feel, how they act, how they react. Yes, from they're internally by themselves, but you're in a group. So you get all those interpersonal relationships in action that you can't hide or filter sitting down in a chair or in front of your therapist or in front of a family member or at lunch. When you're experiencing that thing and then there's failure and it's affecting you and that person, man, that processing to me is the sweet spot of experiential therapy.
Oh, very much so. It's sitting in a group, you can tell people anything that you think that they want to hear. But when you're involved in these activities or challenges, the true nature of your behavior manifests itself. And one of the things that I try to teach, our patients and everything is that, our families have heard all of our BS. They've heard all of our lies, our excuses. And that the one thing that they do pay attention to, and the one thing that a lot of people will, and I hate to use the word judge us by, is our behaviors, how we act, how we carry ourselves. That's what people see. That's what, is a big indicator to other people. How do I conduct myself? How do I deal with, situations? How do I recognize what's within my control? And how do I deal with things that are not in my control? So just, basically correlates to the last line of the Serenity Prayer and the wisdom to know the difference.
Well, that's the tricky part, the actual wisdom. Go ahead, Zell.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm learning a lot, and I only have like a conceptual understanding of adventure therapy or experiential therapy through the words, but based on what I'm hearing, it resonates a lot with me, especially from the point of view of like spirituality or just well-being in general, to connect with our true nature, our truest nature. So like things can be very theoretical when I'm just talking, but then when you're in a moment, there's no thinking because there's already something within me that comes out, when I get exposed to danger or challenge, and then that becomes like a real-time expression of your true self. And then you monitor that, you check that in, and then, find out what's going on. So that's my understanding so far.
As alcoholics and addicts, we don't want to deal with what we feel in here, that those feelings of less than, those feelings of self-doubt, insecurities, and the activities help people to experience that at the moment. That when I have a group and, somebody says, well, we want to go outside. We want to jump off the pole. We want to do this and everything. Or, when I get folks that it's their first time. One example is I took a group out to do the high element activity called the leap of faith. And it requires the individual to climb up a tree 35 feet high to stand on a platform. And there's a big red like ball that you use on a dock. And it's on a rope that can be adjusted to pull it in closer or to put it out further in order, for the individual to challenge himself or herself. And I'll never forget this one male client. It was his first time out on the ropes course. And, he was willing to do the activity, but he was standing there and he's like, I don't know about this. And my co-facilitator and I are looking at him as like, what's the issue? And he's like, I don't mind climbing up there and jumping off the platform. That's no problem. But I got to trust these guys because I have three of his peers, three other people that are early in recovery that are standing down there holding the rope that's going to be attached to him.
Life's in their hands.
Yes. And I'm like, so you're saying that, you can't trust these guys because they're addicts? He's like, yeah. And I said, what's your drug of choice, yeah? He said, heroin. I said, and every time you go and cop dope, do you ask the dope man, hey, is this stuff US FDA approved? The liquor store salesman's not going to stand there and tell me that when I'm buying a fifth of Jack Daniels, hey, dude, if you keep drinking enough of this, you're going to develop cirrhosis of the liver. You're going to get, elevated liver enzymes. You're going to turn jaundiced in a nice, bright shade of yellow and everything. Liquor store owner's not going to tell me that. Salesman's not going to tell me that. Give me your money and get your stuff and go away. Leave me alone.
I'm guessing he didn't all of a sudden. I'm guessing he still had fear because then there was a whole new level of experience of, I don't trust them, but I still don't want to jump. I hear what you're saying. I get that perspective logically, but am I ready to jump?
he got up there, and I love when individuals, when I do that activity, and it is very much appropriately named the leap of faith, and that, you know, whenever folks have 2 feet on the ground, they're like King Kong. But then, oh, mercy, mercy, mercy. As soon as they start climbing, it's like, I don't know, dude. I don't know about this. Is this safe? And I'm like, I'm going to do everything in my power to provide the utmost level of safety for every one of my patients. Safety is one thing that I do not deviate on. If individuals have certain physical limitations, I generally will pull them to the side and say, based upon your medical status, any past surgeries, severe injuries, maybe traumatic brain injuries or anything, I want you to understand that it's nothing personal, but there may be certain activities or challenges that I might not be able to allow you to do, because I do not want to put you at risk to exacerbate or make worse a physical limitation that you have to live with for the rest of your life. My activities and challenges are not worth you screwing up your physical health and making things worse for you, because sometimes, you get people that, because of certain injuries or whatever surgeries that they may have had, eventually end up becoming addicted to their pain medications.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the contributing factors to why they're seeking treatment.
Mm-hmm.
They're not too happy with it most times, but they at least do appreciate, the fact that, hey, look, my job is to send you out of here on 2 feet, not 8 wheels and a gurney with, 3 or 4 paramedics taking you out of here, and you're running the risk of maybe never walking again.
Mm-hmm.
My activities or challenges are not worth that.
I want to go back to the beginning of your group experience, and I'll kind of throw you a little what I want you to discuss about the storming and the forming. That some adventure therapists, experiential therapists, go in with, I'm doing this exercise, this adventure today. But one of the things that I really got a lot from you in terms of the experience and the power of group therapy, all group therapy, but it really comes to life in adventure and experiential therapy, is you're identifying what the individual needs and what the group needs, and being able to use all those variables. How do you start your group sessions? Because rarely do you go into a day going, we're doing this exact exercise because this is what I want to do. How do you set that up for your clients?
I'll do a little backstory here. When I first started doing adventure therapy and, was just all gung ho for it and everything, that's pretty much how I operated. This is what I want, the group to do. This is what I want you to learn. Mm-hmm. And I was working with a group of adolescents doing an activity that, a vast majority of them were getting frustrated, irritated, aggravated, quitting. I'm yelling at them, get back in there, don't quit, don't give up. So I finally sat all the, adolescents down. And that's when, you have those spiritual moments that you don't know are going to happen, but they do. And in retrospect, I can look back at, when the voice of God speaks to you, you just never know whose voice he's going to use. And I had the kids all sit down back in the corner of the gym and everything. And I said, would somebody please tell me what's the problem? And at least, several of the kids finally, spoke up, and they said, you're the problem, Mr. Mark. And I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking, wait a second. I'm the facilitator here. I'm in charge. I know what I'm doing. And one kid said, no matter what we do, it's never good enough for you. Another kid looked at me and said, man, if I want to be yelled and screamed at, he said, hell, I'll just go home. I get enough of that every day.
Hmm.
So I had to take a step back. And, I'm so grateful that they told me, because I had to take a step back and I had to look at me. And they were right. And from that day forward, when I do groups now, when I have my females in the morning, I have my people in detox at 10:30 in the morning. And then I have all my other males that are not in detox at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And what I do is I ask them, what is your group goal? As a group, what is it that you need to work on to make you a more cohesive, functioning group, to where you guys feel safe with each other? And they tell me what their goal is. And then based upon the goal that they give to me, then I figure out what activity or challenge that I have in my repertoire that is conducive to helping them to achieve that goal. Whenever we get new clients into Pathways and everything, I sit down and I review every individual's medical record, drug of choice, past history of any, prior treatment episodes. And then I go to the medical aspects so that I know, what I can or can't do with individuals. And that if I do need to pull them to the side and explain, here's what I can or can't allow you to do, because I don't want you, to be injured. I don't want you to exacerbate this condition that you have to work with. But I find a way that, to be able to allow them to participate in a supportive manner where they're still a part of the group. So it's by asking them,
You get
what
the
is your
individual,
goal?
well, you
What
get
is it
the
that you
individual
want?
talk.
Now, the individuals, I meet with everybody individually, because I do a treatment plan goal for everybody. And so in developing that treatment plan goal, I sit and I ask them, what do you need to work on to change about you? What attitudes, behaviors, way of doing things, way of dealing with things? What do you need to work on to change about you? And then when they give me their feedback or their answer, then I know, okay, how can I incorporate what activities and such that will help, them to be able to address what it is that they feel that they need to work on.
And when the group does that, you get the individual see what they feel the group goal is. They begin to look at themselves, ideally. When you're doing the group, the activity, how do you begin to tailor the adventure therapy experience based on the unique needs of that little microcosm of an individual in a group? That's, to me, that's the magic.
Somewhere, some way, somehow, the activities or the experiences, generate, whatever emotions, fears, doubts in each and every individual. And when they verbalize it or they act upon it, and when when I recognize that it correlates to what they say, that this is what I need to work on, then I can address that issue with them at that moment, and get them to look at themselves and what they're doing. And how's this like what you were talking about that you said that you needed to work on? Are you working on that, or are you not? And then they, because it gets them to start really looking at themselves and what they're doing and how they're doing it. And are they making any personal changes? Are they addressing the changes that they say that they need to make?
What do you think,
It's,
so?
it's more of a, how much better do I get to know myself? I don't want to screw this up, so I'm not going to say the author's name, but, in The Art of War, to know your enemy is to know yourself. The enemy is in here. My drinking or my drug use is just a symptom of what I don't want to deal with in here. And this is what I have to look at, and this is what I need to work on in order to help me to stay sober.
Yeah, that goes back to that idea of staying true to your innermost self in a way, So like as you were talking too, as I'm trying to comprehend adventure therapy, it makes me think about challenges, So like when life gets difficult or when the activities get really difficult, like what motivates you, what gets you going, and then discovering that, what is within you and then going with it, So it makes me think of like, we're in life, we're living life and might as well enjoy it. But then there are some personality within me that enjoys life the most. And I need to discover that, stay true to that. And when that happens, everything is overcomable, that when it gets difficult, I'm like, yeah, but I have this desire, And so other things that motivates, or like, how do you discover that in these therapy setting, like to something that truly motivates them to keep going?
That motivation has to come from within. And, because when I present the challenges, to my patients and everything, and, I tell them, you're going to make mistakes. I expect you to make mistakes. And it's unfortunate that they don't recognize that if they don't complete the activity, like some activities they may not complete, and they'll perceive that as a failure. And I have to, to remind them that it's not a matter of whether you get there. That's your destination. That's where you're trying to get to. And in the course of the activities that we do, I'm trying to teach folks that it's not the destination, but it's the journey that we take in order to get to where we want to be. And what is it that we're doing that helps us to get there? What are we doing that doesn't, or that prohibits or does not allow us to achieve those goals? Is it me? Is it, is it my perceptions? Is it, my emotions that, I just don't know how to deal with? Is it that, I lack, the ability to, to integrate with other people and learn how to ask other people for help, because I was raised with the mentality that if I have to ask somebody else for help, that's a sign of weakness. And that, especially in recovery, we need the help of other people in recovery. And the activities, the vast majority of these activities really hammer that home that, I need these other people for support. One of the activities I call alien abduction, based upon the little story that I tell at the beginning, in order to kind of get their interest and say, you've been abducted by aliens, you've been taken back to their planet, but their planet is going to implode and their civilization is going to be lost. But they're going to give to you all the knowledge and all the information necessary to save the human race. Only bad thing is they're not taking you back to Earth. So I give them X number of 2x4s that are screwed together in various, different lengths, 24, 30 inches, some of them 18 inches. And I give them just enough that the entire group, but that, they're going to be very up close and personal, let's say. So that, and I tell them, I say, everybody's going to know who took a shower this morning, who didn't. Everybody's going to know who brushed their teeth this morning and who didn't. And everybody's going to know who's got underarm on and who doesn't. So, and as I observe what they're doing, and at the beginning, I know exactly what they're going to do with the spaceships, and they're going to put them out just like this, because they think that it's going to get them over there faster. But as they stand on them, somebody weebles or wobbles because they're out there trying to balance on their own, and they fall out, and then they have to go back and start over. So I allow the group to continue to do what they think that they have to do. I let them make their choices. And, based upon what ideas that they share with each other. And then as I watch them, do they ask each other for help? Do they provide the support to each other? Or do you have, 8, 9 individuals who are also trying to stand on this, these two pieces of 2x4 squared together, and trying to stand up there thinking that they're, doing their best Simone Biles imitation and, continuously falling out until finally after maybe 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 attempts, I'll just say, okay, time out, y'all, time out. Can somebody tell me what's the definition of insanity? And somebody will respond, it's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And I'll say, with what you guys are doing, is it working? Because how many times have you tried it the exact same way? What are you going to do different? And when they finally, learn one little minute little change in what they're doing, instead of putting the 2x4s out long ways like this, turn them like this, like steps on a ladder. The activity is actually called stepping stones, but so that when, they realize that, they support each other, they utilize every inch of space on those 2x4s, then they can start to make their journey. And that activity in particular is just so awesome for the correlation to working the program. The people out front taking that knowledge and information that's in the spaceships and laying it out for everybody to follow, i.e., where do the old timers sit in the rooms? Old timers are sitting up front because they want to get that information. What does this meeting have to offer for me that I can use today that's going to help me to stay sober? Person in the back, they're picking up all that knowledge and information, but passing it on to the people up front. Where do the newcomers generally sit in a meeting? They generally sit in the back unless they, they get a sponsor who tells them, get your butt up front. And getting them to look at, that, because I'll ask them, who was more important? Was the person up front more important, or was the person in the back? And then they realize everybody was just as equally important as anybody else because we needed each other. And I tell them, and this is what happens in the rooms. The old timers are taking that knowledge and information and they're laying it down for others to follow. The newcomers that are in the back are the reminders to the old timer. I'm one drink, I'm one pill, I'm one hit of dope away from, instead of picking up a 24-year chip, I got to go and pick up a 24-hour chip and start this whole thing all over again. And I say, and it's just the same.
It's just so neat how this type of therapy, like you said, can give them the ability to process during and after, and whether it's failure or at least to challenge. Every human feeling doesn't like discomfort, and that happens certainly with failure and definitely also with a challenge. And alcoholics really don't like discomfort. So the ability to provide that experience and be okay with that discomfort, and instead of numbing out with drugs and alcohol, working with another person, actually trying something different. That's it.
But also having to learn how to recognize and deal with our own emotions and our own feelings and our levels of, insecurity, doubt. Because one of the very first questions when we start the processing period is, what was your first thought of what I was asking you to do? And then more times than not, everybody will say, I think you're crazy. I thought that, what you're asking us to do is impossible. That's like one activity that, I'll have everybody line up shoulder to shoulder facing me, and I'll give them like about a 40-foot long piece of rope. And I'll tell everybody to hold on to the rope like this and say that there's 10 people in the group. I'll give them the rules. They can slide their hands up and down the rope anywhere that they need to go. But the main rule is they cannot take these digits off the rope in any way, shape, or form. If you've got an itch, borrow somebody else's elbow or shoulder, but you cannot take your hands off the rope. And I'll demonstrate for them. Your challenge is that you have to tie an overhand knot in this rope in between each and every one of you that are holding on to this rope. What's the first thought that goes through your head?
Impossible.
How do you feel about what I'm asking you to do? And then, because, one of the things that I have to keep reminding, folks is that I will never give you a challenge that's impossible or cannot be done. And then when they start learning, and then through the course of them doing the activity, because they have to make a big loop, put it all the way over them, step through. So what I keep reiterating over and over as they're doing it, I'll keep saying, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Because when they start getting in towards the center of the group, that means that all the people at the end who started it first, they have to go through every knot that's being tied. So, the person at the end who gets the first knot tied thinks, oh, hey, I got my knot tied, I'm done. But when we process it, I sit there and say, if I'd have let you do what you wanted to do, I'll take the rope and I'll tie a knot. And I say that, hey, there's your knot, Mark. Now what else you want us to do? What made the activity challenging? Why did you perceive it as impossible? And the vast majority of the answer will be is because I couldn't take my hands off. And why did that make it challenging? Because I use these for everything. And I'll say, isn't that what we do with alcohol, heroin, cocaine, Xannies, oxys? We use that for everything, to deal with everything in life, because we don't know how to deal with it, or we don't want to deal with real life on life's terms.
What you were saying earlier was very valuable about allowing people to make mistakes and then feeling comfortable or being okay with asking for help. That is a very valuable life lesson. As you were sharing too, I was reflecting on my own personal experience in terms of not experiential therapy, but experiential learning, that I learned how to read and write in English from a young age. And I thought I knew English so well. And I learned about the US and the slang and everything, but they didn't mean anything until I actually moved here, So it's really crazy that in my head, I gotta master the grammatical structure, say everything perfectly. I have to think ahead. But then when I am thrown into the culture, I have to start making mistakes and say the words wrong, make mistakes, but only then I can learn, So it's just a way different quality of learning when I get thrown into the situation, make mistakes, and then learn.
So we're Americans. We even don't speak English very well. So don't feel bad. Don't feel like the Lone Ranger, brother.
We laugh all the time. He says, and now I talk all the time on a podcast.
I used to joke too that the reason why I drank was to speak fluent English. I felt like I spoke fluent English every time I drank.
Lord knows we're 10 foot tall, able to leap tall buildings and outrun a speeding train when we're all intoxicated now, ain't we? 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Oh,
So
Lord have me.
So your example of how you best learned English, and Mark, you explaining the power of experiential therapy. There's this Chinese proverb, tell me, I forget, show me, I'll remember, involve me, I'll understand.
Tell me I will forget, show me, I might remember, but involve me and I will understand. And that's, that is what adventure therapy, experiential education pretty much is all about. It's offering the, individuals the opportunity to be involved and to be a part of something, that, or to get them to do something that they never thought that they could do, or they would never allow themselves to do. And one of the things that I tell my patients is, my job is to take you out of your comfort zone. And when I get new people come in, I tell them, generally when I sit down to meet with them to do a treatment plan, I sit there and tell them, I'm going to irritate you, I'm going to aggravate you, and I'm going to frustrate the hell out of you. And you're going to have a smile on your face while I do it. And, it's just like the indoor climbing wall. Everybody, when they first come into the gym, I want to do that. I want to climb that and everything. And I say, well, when you get out of detox and everything, and if the group goal correlates with it, we'll see what happens. But They just don't know that when I allow them to climb it, they have to pick one color route, and that they're going to climb that route blindfolded. And they're like, "What? There's no, I'm not. That's the only way you're going to climb it. Sorry." Because I'm basically trying to teach them how to be patient, pay attention, and follow directions. And within about less than 10 minutes, once they get started, and I'm like, right foot 3 o'clock, right hand 1 o'clock, left hand 11 o'clock, left hand 12 o'clock, step up. And then within less than 5 minutes or so, I'm like, all right, take your bandana off. They're taking them, and they're like, oh, damn, I'm already up at the top. Yeah. Now the outdoor wall, no, I won't let them do it blindfolded, because even the guys who inspect my course once a year have told me that my outdoor climbing wall is a bitch.
The indoor example, so parallel with the steps. You're blindfolded, so there's this level of powerlessness and unmanageability. So then you have to, turn your will over to the care of a higher power, the group of other people, and you're turning your will over and allowing them to guide you. That's a wonderful example of, even with fear, even with doubt, even with insecurity, well, I could say, F it, or I could just kind of turn it over to the guidance that's going to help me.
The fight or flight syndrome, FEAR, face everything and recover, or everything and relapse.
Yeah. This works so well for obviously people with substance use and addiction, but you've done adventure therapy with all walks of life, including police officers and first responders. So give us a little bit of your experiences, and does the dynamic of, police officers who are in this mindset of, oh, if there's fight or flight, I'm fighting and I better be in control. How does this experiential therapy work so well for them from you working with them?
The police officers are all volunteers for the CIT program, the Crisis Intervention Team. We've been doing this now, working in conjunction with the Anne Arundel County Police Department and officers, from other jurisdictions. Several years ago, I think prior to COVID, we had several Secret Service agents who were part of the group that came in from DC. I remember one group, 2 days in a row, were all correctional officers from Jennifer Road, and what's the other one up in Glen Burnie that I can't remember? Ordnance Road. And I'll never forget, one of the male clients came in, and the COs are in there, and one of the male clients says, "Hey, Mr. Jones, how you doing? How's the wife? How's the kids?" Because he'd been locked up so many times, he knew most of the COs that were there. So, which is unfortunate, but it's the price we pay for the game that we play. Can I share something with you that I got from? We did a group of police officers back in February on Valentine's Day and the day after, and I always want some feedback from the supervisors who coordinate and run the program. And the text message that one of the supervisors sent back to me was this: one of the officers just told me it was humbling, because he said the people in your group were some of the nicest people he's ever met, and he can look back on past interactions with people with addiction, and he realizes he was a total asshole, judgmental, and treated them like shit. And having the police officers come in and integrate with our clients helps to dispel and tear down a lot of the negative perceptions that one side has of the other. And that, as this one individual says, that it allows the officers to see us as alcoholics and addicts in a totally different view, because they're not dealing with us when we're at our worst, when we're under the influence, we're overdosed, we're combative, or we're all lovey-dovey, and Officer Joe Schmo looks just like Tom Cruise, or you remind me of my Uncle Ben, whatever the case may be. And it also allows our clientele who may have had, some past interactions with the legal system, maybe have been arrested and everything. And the officers, and it allows them to see that, police officers are people just like us. They're doing a job. They're wearing a uniform. But the officers are coming in because they want to learn from, our patients at Pathways. How can we help you? How can we help you to get the help that you need when you need it the most? And, who better to get it from than the source? And so it just breaks down so many negative perceptions that one side has of the other. And by the time, we finish doing whatever activity or challenge that we do, I mean, the officers and the patients are, handshakes and hugs. And some of the officers have, even to some people that if we did a high element, that they did it together. I've seen phone numbers exchanged, and, when you get out, hey, if you're, need any help or anything, give me a call. So it's been extremely impactful and beneficial for both parties involved. I just have the privilege of just being able to facilitate it and talk a lot of trash.
I think that's great.
I told the officers this morning while they were all signing, I said, what's criminal? They get paid to do this.
I think that's a good antidote. Are there any other things that jump out at you that say, this is clearly a measure of effectiveness, that this thing works? You're already giving us that, but highlight some more.
I don't know most times, Luke, how effective I am or what I do is, unless I get people that will, that come back, and say, hey, Mark, I just celebrated 4 years. One gentleman did that one day. I'll never forget this one guy that, he would come up from North Carolina once a month to get his 30-day chip, 60-day chip, 90-day chip. And when he came back, to get his 1-year chip, I didn't recognize him, because he said, I ride my bike 10 miles every morning, go to work, come home, ride my bike another 15 miles, shower, and then go to my home group. And the transformation, the physiological transformation, was such that the only way I could recognize him is that when he told me his name, and the only thing I could recognize was that North Carolina drawl. And so, and I tell, and I try to, to share that experience with the people that are at Pathways now when we do, the minefield activity, in that, this are you willing to make that level of commitment to your recovery as what this individual did? That once a month he would come up from North Carolina to Annapolis to help celebrate, every 30-day increment of his sobriety. I remember standing in line at Home Depot, and I was looking at something, and the next thing I know is I got this great big hand coming up, and this gentleman saying, "You owe me one of these." I said, "Owe you what?" He said, "A handshake. You told me when I got 1 year, then I could get a handshake." I said, where's your 1-year chip? Lord knows he pulled it out of his pocket, got his handshake.
It's powerful.
So,
it's powerful. Well, we're already coming up on an hour. Is all anything on your mind?
This is great. Yeah, I learned a lot, and I related a lot from my own personal experience too. There's that concept of direct experience in meditation in our tradition, that it's not about theoretically meditating on cushion and then living life differently in the daily life, but it's more about what is actually happening in the direct experience moment. And there's also this concept of inner knowing, so that describes everything that you have shared with your setting, that you see people and they have that direct experience of what's happening, and there's already trust within them, and they got to discover it. And then that truly and the true transformation happens as they get tapped into it.
Yeah, one of the best stories that I enjoy sharing with folks that are in treatment now, because a lot of people say that they want to climb the outdoor wall. And I tell them about a female client, probably about 10 years or so ago, who wanted to climb that wall like she wanted a heartbeat. And I can't remember if it was the day before she left or the day that she discharged, but I gave her opportunity. So she's climbing and everything, and she gets to a certain point, and I hear, oh, shit. And I'm like, well, what's the matter? She said, I broke a nail. I looked up at her. I said, seriously? She said, you know what? To hell with it. She sat up there, put her feet against the wall, and a $75 fake fingernail job. She bit every one of them off, spit them down to the ground. And I mean, she busted her tail. She busted her tail, but she made it to the top of that 45-foot high climbing wall. And when she discharged, she put 7 years of continuous sobriety under her belt after she discharged.
Oh.
So
That's awesome.
It's that type of, what do you have in you that you can draw upon to accomplish what you want to accomplish? And I hope that, what I do with the patients on, in adventure therapy helps folks to find that within themselves, that they can do more than what they allow themselves to do up here, because everything up here is based upon that fear, self-doubt, insecurities, lack of trust. So,
that's beautiful. Yeah. I used to do this loving kindness prayer, which is may I be happy. But lately I've been saying, may I find true happiness. And that's exactly what you just said, is that when I am truly happy, when I discover from within, it doesn't take away anything from anybody else. It comes from within, that I prefer genuine happiness and genuine enjoyment,
I had one lady who had a very traumatic childhood experience with heights. And we were doing the power pole, Luke. And when we got out to...
Can you tell them the nickname you have for the power pole, by the way?
Well, it was originally called the pamper pole, if you know what Pampers are for.
All right, go ahead.
So anyways, but, other programs, I think, because that's, that has such a negative connotation and it's not so politically correct, that, they changed it to the power pole because it empowers people, to face their fears and everything. But this one young lady, and when we got out, to do the activity, she pulled me, she says, Mark, I can't do this. I said, and that's okay. You don't have to. But after about 30, 45 minutes of watching all of her peers do the activity, and as I'm moderating and, making sure that everything's done and, all the safety precautions are, being taken care of, I looked over and I see a lot of the ladies in the group putting a full body harness onto this woman. And she got to the bottom of the ladder. I said, I want you to go as high as you will allow yourself. So she got up to the top of the ladder, and I says, is that about all that you can do? I said, all I want you to do right now is step off the ladder. She took that next step. I said, don't look down, don't think, just climb. And she did. She got to the very top. She put her head over the top of the pole. She says, I think this is about as high as I can go, Mark. And I said, and that's great. Did you or did you not exceed what you thought that you could do or what you would have allowed yourself to do an hour ago? So we got her down, and Zaw, the smile on her face, you could not wipe it off with a howitzer. Mm-hmm. And to the best of my knowledge, I think next month or by July, 7 or 8 years of continuous sobriety. I remember her sending me an email because she had moved out to a western state, and she sent me an email saying, I stood on the edge of a canyon today, and I looked out, and I wasn't afraid.
Power is in our experiences, huh? Wow. I think one of my takeaways is just adventure therapy with its unique approach and immersive experience has the ability to unlock our hidden strengths, ignite our resilience, and just cultivate a deep connection with others and our true self. And being able to experience that and the fear, the discomfort, whatever it is, and seeing the other side of that is just great.
To be able to bear witness to those individuals who really want to get sober and to see those personal transformations that they're able to make or to achieve based upon, their level of participation or what they get out of the experiences in adventure therapy are priceless. And, and when I tell people, you own that experience, nobody can ever take that away from you, ever.
And I do want to say that working with Mark, 6, 7, 8 years, I don't remember how long it was, but it was my realization and a direct result of your mentorship and experiential therapy that there's no paycheck that can put the price. There's no insurance. There's no benefit of a job that can feel better than what we feel as facilitators, as therapists, especially doing experiential therapy and adventure therapy. That experience with the clients, there's no price tag that you can put on that.
No, there's not.
Yeah.
And when, never forget, one guy called me up. I answered the phone. Mark speaking. Mark? I was like, yeah, this is so-and-so. I said, how you doing? You son of a bitch. I said, what are you cussing me out for? He said, all that crazy stuff you had us do? Now I understand it.
Can't beat that. Is there anything else, Mark, as we close up that you want to share before we wrap it up?
I'm humbled and grateful to be asked to join you, Luke. Zaw, pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for joining us.
Hopefully I'll see you in person soon.
Yes, I hope so.
So,
I really enjoyed this conversation. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mark, for sharing your wisdom, humor, and passion with us. And thank you, listeners, for joining us on this adventure. Until next time, stay curious, embrace the wild side of life, and remember that the greatest stories are often found in the uncharted territories of our own hearts. If you think others would benefit from the podcast episode, share with others, as collectively we can find a solution to all things health and wellness. My name's Luke.
And here's Zaw. Thank you all for listening.
And we'll see you next time. Later.
See you next time. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.